Chapter 10 Salomon Sex Magick. A nude woman lies in the center of the magic circle. The dim candlelight casts a soft, glistening glow over her oiled body. Her head rests in the center of Solomon's triangle while she stares upward into the depths of a great, dark mirror suspended from the ceiling. Her eyes are wide open and unblinking. She is in deep trance. Sitting close around her on both sides are darkly robed and hooded figures. Only their hands can be seen, the fingertips moving slowly up and down her body as they hum a droning overtone chant. At her shoulder sits the magus. While the others continue their rhythmic massage, in sync with the rising and falling hum of their voices, he delivers the conjuration, we call thee in the name of All-Father Ol and in the name of thy supernal mother, Asherat of 100 the sea and in the name of thy royal consort, Prince Baal the Thunderer come, be with us in this fair and human form. Come, O great goddess Astarte. The woman arches her naked body and languorously stretches like a waking cat. The blank stare in her eyes is replaced by an expression of dawning awareness which quickly becomes a look of omnipotent intelligence. She laughs and then speaks in voice not her own, I am here, my children. Why have you called me? The operation I have just described is an advanced technique which we call assumption of goddess form. It is actually more of a sensual magic operation than one of sex magic, but our hieroskamos, divine congrax, uses this same tactile, mesmeristic technique as a starting point, so we will begin at the beginning. First, you should be aware that straight assumption of goddess, or god, form operations do not, or should not, involve direct sexual stimulation. The technique is more mesmeristic than hypnotic and depends on directing energy flows up and down the body. If one of the massagers lets his or her fingers stray onto, or into, the receiver's erogenous zones, you will short-circuit the current. I vividly recall 101 having a grim, hand-clenching battle with a former student during an assumption operation to keep him from taking liberties with one of our lodge sisters who was deep in trance. Make certain that you all agree on the rules of conduct before you undertake this type of operation. It is absolutely essential for your receiver to have successfully evoked the entity in a previous Goetia contact operation. The operator and the receiver should establish a comfortable rapport with the entity and request its safe cooperation before performing an assumption operation. Needless to say, certain entities should be absolutely avoided in this regard. I can only recommend Astarte and Baal for this sort of work, and even with these friendly beings I urge caution. No one under 18 years of age should be allowed to engage in any Goetia-type operations, especially assumptions. You can use your earth pentacle mirror as an overhead speculum if you put 3 or 4 rings around the rim to hang it from. If you have a full-sized temple, I would suggest a larger mirror. Use a convex 21 inches diameter dark mirror mounted on a circular wooden frame which also works well for path workings and astral time travel. Place the spirit sigil on the mirror as you would in a regular Goetia operation. Be sure to have the receiver wear the spirit's lumen. Place 3 candles at the corners of the triangle, acquire a bottle of scented massage oil, warm it to blood temperature, and you are ready to operate. In other respects, straight assumption operations are similar to Goetia contacts. You must alter the conjuration to say, within this circle and upon this triangle. Speak to us through our receiver, bless her and harm her not. The receiver should not allow herself or himself to become fully possessed. When receiving in this type of work, take an observer's seat somewhere in your mind and monitor the entity you are channeling. For the receiver, an assumption should be the spiritual equivalent of a method actor's performance. Invite the entity in and allow yourself to play the role, but always remember that this is magic, not voodoo. You are not a horse for the gods to ride, you are a host entertaining an honored guest. Don't let it go further than that. A competent magister will make sure that such operations are carefully planned 102 and properly performed with consenting, emotionally stable adults who know exactly what they are doing. As we stated above, straight assumption operations are sensual but not sexual, and yet they are the starting point for the hieroskamos, or what our Wiccan friends refer to as the Great Rite. The hieroskamos is a sacred marriage, not an orgy. It is a very private and holy rite. It involves, or should involve, one man and one woman who have already established a deeply meaningful sexual relationship. Here again, do not use these methods for seduction because they are too complex, intense and subjective for people who don't already know and respect each other in the most intimate sense. Before we get into operational details, a brief review of Western sex magic theory might be in order. You remember Plato's idea of the original idea? Plotinus took it out of the abstract and hooked up an energy flow, the Star Wars force, to the idea, giving us what is known in occult terminology as an astral preform. In other words, all physical forms and events must be preceded by a preform in the Yetzirah, astral, dimension. The entire active aspect of magic involves creating and programming these astral preforms. There are several methods for doing this: creative visualization, ritual, talisman creation, etc., but one of the most dynamic and effective techniques is to sexually create a magical child and program it to accomplish your desire. This method works on the old Kabbalistic doctrine that every sex act, even masturbation, creates some sort of preform entity on the astral. Congress between a man and a woman will therefore result in a magical offspring if no physical conception is accomplished. This very ancient belief is one of the reasons behind the religious prohibition against having sex for fun. God creates and so do you, and the clergy doesn't want you to know it. Therefore, if you and your partner decide you want to create a magical child, you first make a talisman to represent it and the purpose it's going to accomplish, then you have sex and impregnate the talisman with your combined effluvium. 9 days later you go through the same procedure again and re-impregnate the talisman. You then seal it up, forget it and let it perform its task. 103 I can relate from personal experience that this is one of the most powerful techniques in magic. It virtually has to work, even if you don't believe in it. As described, it is a simple, mechanical technique that will succeed to some degree no matter how basically you perform it. Back before WWI, male German OTO members often carried out the rite without their wives even being aware of it. However, if you want to get the most out of the method, you will want to ritualize it the way the ancients did. In other words, you will enact the hieroskamos, or sacred marriage. This great rite was usually performed by a high priest and high priestess or a king and queen at the beginning of the year to ensure prosperity for the land and the people. We symbolize it in our nuptial pageant at vernal equinox. The lines of poetry heading this chapter are from that rite and may be used as the only spoken words the manifested god and goddess need recite to each other when coming together for their congress. The sacramental mead is poured from Baal's golden flagon into Astarte's silver goblet and then shared as a symbolic gesture of the physical consummation about to take place. However, you may wish to add the following statement of purpose: Astarte, Baal, what task shall the child of our union perform, O my lord? Verily he shall. Here state the task, in good time and full measure. In ancient Babylon the hieroskamos was enacted on top of a ziggurat, whereas in Canaan it was performed on a hilltop or in the inner Holy of Holies chamber of the temple. Here again the procedure is straightforward and simple. The priestess invokes the god into the priest and then the god invokes his goddess consort into the priestess. In modem practice you may carry out the invocations under the suspended mirror, in the same manner as in an assumption operation. Or you may enact the procedure standing up while facing a full 104 figure 1. Reverse side should show symbolism specific to the magical child and its intended purpose. Length mirror, we used a lunar soul door in the western quadrant. See the Egyptian arch shown veiled in our video. Appropriate makeup, costuming and jewelry will aid in the transformation, and a cot mattress covered with black cloth should be placed in the magic circle. Sandalwood incense, roses and soft background music on an exotic theme would help to create a proper atmosphere. When both have assumed their god forms, the great rite is formally consummated and the mighty talisman of the working is charged. See Figure 1. Below. Aside from its tremendous magical potency, this is a profoundly beautiful experience that can deeply enrich and re-empower a monogamous relationship. If you and your partner are beginning to find your sexual relations getting just a little boring, Invite Baal and Astarte into your lives and let them rekindle the fires of romantic love. In closing, let me again caution you against any frivolous, irresponsible use of these powerful techniques or any degenerate perversion of their worthwhile purposes. Honor and respect these methods and they will serve you well. Show reverence to the goddess and to her prince consort and you will surely prosper.